What is going on, guys? It has been 1 year since I bought the Shelby. Figured it was time to do a little bit of a review. Now, this is a 2012 Shelby GT500. It's got the performance pack. Other than that, it's pretty much bone stock. 20,000 miles on the car when I bought it. Finally starting to warm up, able to get the car out. Roads aren't all covered with salt and ice anymore. This car has been phenomenal so far. Apologize for the audio, it's kind of windy out. Once again, we've got a 2012 GT500. This is a Kona blue with the striped elite. Performance pack car, so we've got the 19-inch wheels in the front with the 20s in the back. Now we are running a Michelin Pilot Sport AS3. Been pretty impressed with that tire. It rides pretty well, but it also gets decent traction. And one thing I absolutely love about this car is the exhaust sound. Now it's just all factory exhaust, but they did a really good job with the exhaust on this car. Now this is one of those cars that it's just such a joy to drive. It runs really well with that 550 horsepower, 373 gears, and the 6-speed transmission, but it's still a drivable car. So I got a hydraulic clutch, easy to press in and out. It's an easy to drive car. You know, you get into some vehicles that make a lot of power and they're just a bear to drive. Drive like a race car. You don't have to worry about that with this car. Super easy to drive. You could daily this thing easily. Go on road trips, anything you wanted, but still have the performance. Now this is a 2012, so the 11s and 12s came with this style taillight. They're decent, but the 13-14s do have a little better looking taillight. That's one thing that a lot of guys do. I may end up doing that with this car, I'm not sure yet. Another thing, you can tell the 11s and 12s apart from the 13s, 14s, is the 11s and 12s have the single exhaust tips where the 13, 14s have a quad. One thing that this car did not come with is the Recaro seats. That's one thing that I would like to do at some point, but those are hard to find and they want big money for them. Now, the Shelbys come with the 60/60 Tremec 6-speed transmission. These are pretty good from the factory. It could use a short throw shifter, shorten it up a little bit, make it a little more crisp, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. Just pulls so hard you can't help but smile. Hear that supercharger whine every time it gets me. I've had this car for a year, and every time I get in it and hear that supercharger whine, just get a big grin on your face, feel like a little kid. That's what a car should do. Steering feel, this car is great. It's got adaptive steering. It does have electric power steering. Some people don't like that. This one's actually got a comfort, a standard, and a sport mode that you can change through the settings. The stopping power of this car is impressive as well. Got Brimbos all the way around it. I have no problem getting this car stopped. One thing I have done on this car is I actually added the JLT mud flaps front and back. If you want to see that video, I'll link it above. Sound system is decent in this car. It's really nothing special. This one's got the Mach 500 system. The 1000 does have the subs where this one doesn't. But for the price you pay, it's really hard to get a car out of the box that's drivable, that's reliable, has 550 horsepower for the price you pay for these. And if you get online and do some looking around, you can see the 2007s all the way through the 12s are pretty reasonable for the amount of car that you get. Once again, this is a 6-speed car. It's not like the new 2020 GT500. That's an automatic. It's actually a DCT, but there's something about just driving a manual. Just gives you a different driving experience. No, it's not going to be as fast as a car with a DCT. You just can't shift as quick and reliable as an automatic can. But they're also, you know, for a 2020, it would outrun this, absolutely. That's a 760 horsepower car. But they also want 50 grand more than what you can pick up one of these for. This is really just a performance bargain. Every time, just pulls hard. With the market the way it is now, you can pick up one of these Shelbys for a lower price than you could go buy a brand new GT off the lot for, and that is saying a lot. The new GTs are they're a nice car, but you know, I think they're making north of 450 now, but once again, this car is still making 550. The other thing about these cars is, being a Shelby, they hold their value a whole lot better than if you just go, you know, buy run-of-the-mill GT. They just do. A little bit specialty. They limit the numbers of these. It's not a really small number. I think they made somewhere around 5,000 in 2012. And then I also did the JLT resonator delete. Made the supercharger whine a little better. Also link that video above. Now, starting in 2007, when they came out with the GT500, it had the 5.4 iron block, 500 horsepower. 2011, still a 5.4, but they've now went to an aluminum block, up the power to 540. This being a 2012, same thing, dual overhead cam, 5.4 liter with the supercharger. It's an Eaton supercharger. This one actually makes 550 horsepower from the factory. Now, when they went to the 1314s, they actually came with a 5.8 liter engine. Those made 662 horse right out of the factory. Everyone always says, well, you should have got a 13 or a 14. They make more power. That's true. But for the money you pay for the car, the 550 horse car is a lot better of a bargain. Throw a pulley on it and a tune, you can make up that difference pretty quick. And they want anything from $10,000 to $15,000 more for the exact same car in a 13 or 14. Another reason, personally, I didn't go with getting a 13 or 14. Those things are they're kind of at their peak already. You start to do very much more, and the bottom end just can't hold the power. Once you get around that 800 mark, Ford uses powder forged rods, and those are good to, seems about 800. Once you get anything north of that, you start to have issues. Now, Ford uses the powdered forged rod because it is good for, you know, the car when they build it. As they build it, you leave this thing relatively stock, you're not going to have a lot of issues with it. Now, when you start to build those things up, of course, that's when you run into issues. But those things cost Ford, you know, a few dollars a piece, whereas on like an 03 or an 04 Terminator Cobra, they actually used mainly H rods. Now, those things are good too. You know, I've heard 1,200 from the factory, but that was actually kind of a fluke deal. And there's a lot of interesting videos on that if you do some looking. Basically, what happened is they had an issue. Ford had an issue with production, and they needed to get those cars out the door, so they just went and bought H rods just right off the shelf and used them in those cars, which resulted in a phenomenal engine that can hold a lot of power but it's just not economical for a car company that mass produces cars to use those. Another cool thing about this generation of the Shelbys is Carroll Shelby still had a hand in it. If you do some looking online, you can run across videos of Carroll actually driving prototypes of these cars, which is pretty cool. The 2020, of course, he had passed away and didn't have a hand in that. Overall, I love this car. If anyone out there is thinking about buying one, I would say do it. You won't be disappointed. They're awesome cars. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We're gonna be doing a lot of different things with the Shelby, just cars in general. If you scroll around some of my videos, basically we do anything from working on cars to car reviews like this to actual car show videos, things like that. So if you're interested in that, hit that like button, and I'll see you guys next time. Another thing about the aluminum block 5.4 is that shaved, it was 100 to 150 pounds off the front end of this car, which made it a lot better handling car.